Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Pascack Valley Regional High School District Board of Education meeting, our regular meeting, 7:30 p.m. on Monday, June 21st, 2020. We will have an opportunity for comments from the public. The first opportunity will be specifically related to board items. The second, any topic of your choice. And with that being said, I'll ask for roll call.
Mr. Blondo. Dr. Blondie.
Here.
Mr. Fronte.
Here.
Mrs. Martin. Ms. Molinelli.
Yes.
Mr. Stankus.
Here.
Ms. Stephens.
Here.
Mrs. Varghese.
Here.
Mr. Weber.
Here.
Very good. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Both adequate and electronic notice of this meeting has been provided, specifying the time, place, and manner in which such notice was provided, and by mailing copies of said notice to the record, filing copies of said notice with the municipal clerk, of Hillsdale, Montvale, Rivervale, Woodcliff Lake, and publishing said notice in the record on May 29th, 2020 and October 23rd, 2020. Any individual wishing to provide comments this evening via Zoom will do so by raising their electronic hand, or if you're calling in, please push star 9. Moving on to routine matters, monthly report. Dr. Gunderson?
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. So many of us had the pleasure of honoring our seniors last Wednesday at the Pascack Valley and Pascack Hills graduation ceremonies. It was a beautiful night. The speeches were inspiring, and we were able to gather once again to celebrate our seniors the way they should be honored. And boy, what a difference a year makes, right? So of course, I congratulate the entire class of 2021, as well as their families. I want to also take a few moments to sincerely thank each of our staff members in the Pascack Valley Regional High School District for stepping up in a very big way this year. Our teachers, secretaries, custodians, counselors, administrators, aides, and nurses went beyond the call of duty with their flexibility, dedication, and caring nature. This year was certainly not ideal, but we were able to open school on day one, keeping the health and safety of our students at the forefront while continuing to educate them in this less than ideal modality of hybrid learning. But the summer is now here, and our administrative team is finalizing the details of our master schedule for next year. I'd like to thank this Board of Education for your support of our new schedule, acknowledging that our students will benefit from the opportunity to take an additional course in their schedule next year. This initiative has been discussed for the past 30 years, and it's this Board of Education that has been able to make this opportunity a reality for the 21-22 school year. So thank you very much. And as you know, this is my final Board of Education meeting in the Pascack Valley Regional High School District. I will forever be grateful to my Pascack family, specifically my mentors, colleagues, staff, students, community members, as well as my current and previous Board of Education members for providing me the opportunity to serve as a teacher, a supervisor, director of curriculum, and superintendent in the Pascack Valley Regional High School District for the past 27 years. Together, we've promoted the value of learning through inquiry, tailored educational programs to focus on the needs of each and every individual, established numerous innovative programs, and have sought to foster a sense of inclusivity for all students. I want to thank you for allowing me the honor of serving this district, most recently as your superintendent, as it has been the honor of my professional life. Thus concludes my final superintendent's report for June 21st, 2021. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Gunderson. Under routine matters, we have one agenda item, which would include the minutes. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
It's okay. So I was pointing to both.
All right. Any comments? Okay. Seeing none, I ask for roll call, please.
Dr. Blundy,
Yes.
Mr. Fronte,
Yes.
Ms. Molinelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yes.
Mrs. Varghese,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver.
Yes.
Very good. We now move on to comments from the public. We would ask that comments focus exclusively on items that are listed in our agenda for this evening's meeting. Any Zoom calls?
I do not have anybody. Oh, I have someone. Eli?
Eli, please state your full name and town of residence, please.
Sure, it's Eli Moallim, Rivervale. Thank you for giving me a chance to ask a question. So I see that equity is on the agenda for tonight. I guess you folks have approved a general statement. I apologize, I don't know where I can find that. I would say I would email you guys a question as to where to find that, but you don't seem to answer my emails. Well, Dr. Gunderson answered the email and just said that they received it. But in any case, a couple of meetings ago, I had asked what you guys defined equity as. And I think Ms. Molinelli, you said you guys would take that back and sort of debate it. I know everybody kind of answered the question as we were speaking, but I'm still thoroughly confused as to the definition of equity and what you guys are actually going to be defining it to our children. Because from my vantage point, it's in, you guys want me to wait?
Okay, what Dr. Gunderson, what I would like for him to do is to address our policy with you. We would be happy to send it to you via email, and we can do that tomorrow. But just for the sake of our conversation tonight, we are choosing to respond to your question, even though it is comments from the public. So we would be happy to do that. Dr. Gunderson, can
Sure.
you do that, please?
So the Comprehensive Equity Plan and Annual Statement of Assurance is a 3-year plan that this Board of Education submits once every 3 years to the County Department of Education. And the previous plan was submitted in May of 2019. And essentially, it's a statement of assurance that talks about the appointment and making sure that our district has an affirmative action officer. There's a resolution that authorizes the affirmative action team to conduct a needs assessment. There's a resolution authorizing the submission of a comprehensive equity plan. It lists the members of the affirmative action team, and then it also goes ahead and it's actually pages upon pages of compliance, making sure that our district has specific policies that address all sorts of issues and mandates from the state government. That's essentially what the plan is. And this is something that we approve every 3 years, and every year between that 3-year period, we just have to have a resolution affirming that that plan is still in place and that we are following the plan. We haven't abolished any of the appropriate policies. I'd be more than happy if you email me directly tomorrow morning or this evening. I'd be more than happy to send you a copy of that comprehensive equity plan that was submitted in 2019.
Yeah, I'm happy to take a look at it, and I appreciate the answer. I'm still thoroughly confused as to what equity is, but now I have something else to, I guess, ask a question about at some point. Again, I'm happy to send an email, but I ask questions here because I haven't gotten answers to my emails. So I will tell you what my concern is. One, I wonder what the cost of all of this equity is. I wonder what the cost is in terms of time, where you folks are not focusing on our kids and their education. You mentioned affirmative action. I know that to mean something in the business world. I don't understand how you are applying it in school. I don't know if you're suggesting that our school district or our community is not inclusive, or if you had some significant complaints about inclusivity prior to all of this becoming, I guess, a popular thing amongst certain people. But at the end of the day, you are lying to our children, okay? You have put family against family with this discussion of equity, and it's a giant lie to the children. And we're gonna put an end to it. And it starts now. And I appreciate your time here, Dr. Gunderson. I'm sure you've done some good things. Ms. Molinelli, it seems like you've ceded a good amount of what you do to Dr. Gunderson. So I guess we have to appreciate him picking up some slack. but our kids have not been the focus, and it shows. I'm not gonna single out any of my kids, but I can tell you, if you wonder why I'm angry, it's because you've affected my kids and my family directly, and we're not alone. So I'll wait for the second part to give you my full comments, but as far as equity goes, it's a disgusting lie that you are teaching our children. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments? Absolutely, please. Okay.
Hi, my name is Dina O'Brien, and I'm from Rivervale. And I would just like to know, like in previous years, this subject, comprehensive equity plan statement, and you're saying this has been going on for years now, that you guys have to report to the state about compliance. Well, in past years, has it been stated as equity? Because it's just become like a buzzword within the last year. Why can't we just call it, comprehensive, compliance statement or something like that? Why do we have to use the word equity, which I feel like is a really destructive word that's being used right now? And I would just would love to see some past, agendas and what word in the past has been used for this subject.
Would you like to also see the full document
Yes, I would
from the
appreciate
Department of
that.
Education?
Absolutely will.
That would be great. We'll make sure
Email
that you
and
get it.
request that I get a full write-up of that as well. But like I said, if you guys could show me some past agendas which use that word as the statement or as the subheading, I would really appreciate it as well.
Yeah, the Department of Education sets that particular language. The school boards work very strictly on the Department of Education and what we get as directives from them. That's what they call it. We are simply responding to their request to ensure that we're doing what they're telling us we need to do from a mandatory perspective. So we'll be happy to send you the document to take a look at.
All right, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Did you get her information? Okay. I'm sorry. Could you email Dr. Gunderson in the morning so we make sure that we have your correct email address? Okay, great. Thanks.
Stephen F.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Steve Pvrhsd. I am from Montvale, New Jersey. Just want to speak to two items. First and foremost, the question came up, what is equity? Equity is the quality of being fair and impartial. Furthermore, equity is providing various levels of support and assistance depending on specific needs or abilities. It typically is afforded to people who have been in the minority groups and have not had the same opportunities as others. So for those people who find equity to be a bad word or they're against it, that's what you're against. If you're against equity, you're against the quality of being fair and impartial. So that's the definition. If you're against it, that's what you're supporting, just to be clear. My second point, I just want to say right here, I want to voice overwhelming support for Ms. Molinelli. I'm sure she is aware at this point. There is a petition being circulated online for her removal from her position. To that end, everyone is free to disagree with one another's opinions. However, there is a mechanism in place. If you disagree with a board member, it's called an election. When the election comes up, if you would like to see Ms. Molinelli removed, then vote against her or give an additional candidate. That's all I want to say is that the petition is ridiculous.
This is not on the agenda.
Steve, if you wouldn't mind making your comment in the second portion of the agenda,
Sure.
that would be the appropriate place. I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Absolutely. My apologies. I'll do it in the second half. Thank you.
Not a problem. Are we good?
No, Sherelle Gross.
Ms. Gross, please state your full name and town of residence, please.
My name is Sherelle Gross. I'm from Rivervale, New Jersey. And I'm not going to talk about the support Molinelli, but I will talk about equity. I don't understand what is the problem with equity. I have and the previous caller talking about he's angry. I'm angry too. I am African American, and there are other people of color that live in this town that pay taxes just like everyone else. And the only thing equity says is that we want equality, not to be treated better or not to be treated worse, but to be treated the same. And so that's the only thing that equity is. And quite frankly, in companies, and I'm a senior executive too, we talk about equity. I don't know what company of any legitimate nature today that doesn't talk about equity. And that is simply what equity is. We have a number of children of color who have been through the school system, who have suffered significant mental health issues due to the fact that they have not felt that they've been treated equal, period, point and blank. And these children are continuing to suffer through their young adulthood. And so to have an objection over equity, it to me doesn't make any sense. And so rather than trying to tear it apart, why don't you just come to the table and try to have a good conversation of making sure all kids feel that they belong in this school. There are children there are parents who are pulling their kids out of the school because they do not feel equal at all. So if we want this town to be an inclusive town, then let it be a town that simply wants to provide the same feeling for all children so they can go to school every single day and feel that this is a place for them to be. So when I send my taxes in, I expect to send my child into school to leave that school, not worse than when he came, but to be better for it. And I expect my son to be able to graduate and know that he had a school system that supported him and that treated him the same. That is equity.
Thank you for your call.
Oops. Carol Lee Adams.
Ms. Adams, good evening. Please state your full name and town of residence.
Good evening, Carol Lee Adams, Montvale, New Jersey. First, I want to thank Dr. Gunderson for his many years of supporting children with special needs in our district. I've always thought that that was your strongest attribute while you have been the superintendent of schools. Secondarily, I've addressed equity and equality in an earlier testimony. I'm not going to go back to that again, but also having a biracial family, I want my children to be respected and honored for who they are and what they are and the good that they bring to society, not to be treated differently. To be treated differently would perhaps accent their racial differences. And I want to blur that divide. I truly do. But I'm not going to go back to it, but I will ask you this. I know that the New Jersey Department of Education has come out with policy about this, but is the New Jersey State Board of Education, have they addressed this and what do they say about it?
Is the question, have they addressed equity and equality specific? Could you just restate your question so we're clear on it?
Really, once again, you mentioned that the New Jersey Department of Education under Commissioner Repillette, I assume, has put forward a statement about equity and equality. But I'm asking you, has the New Jersey State Board of Education addressed this and have they come out with policy about it?
Yeah, well, we'll have to look into that. I don't know specifically offhand if they have addressed this specific issue, but Dr. Gunderson, you can look into that tomorrow. We'll get back to you.
And how will you get back to me, by the way, since Dr. Gunderson is leaving and I don't know the date exactly right now in my head. I guess it's within a week.
If you email him in the morning, he will get back to you within a day or two.
Okay, so I would appreciate that very much because sometimes the State Board of Education and the Department of Education do not always agree. They're not, they don't mimic one another. I think they try to, they are of course, everybody is appointed to these positions and sometimes they are politically appointed. So they may come from different perspectives on it. But, you know, we do have a State Board of Education, many of whom are members who've been there for quite some time. So that I would be curious as to their debate about this, whether or not they have, and interesting how they would, and their meetings are public, and I haven't been able to find that they have come out with such a policy statement about it. So thank you very much. I appreciate that you will look into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more comments from the public, we will move on to policy. There are 3 consent agenda items. May I have a motion? Kelly, Mike? Okay, any comments? Mike?
Congrats to Yas for signing on for one more year.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Blundy,
Yes.
Mr. Fronte,
Yes.
Ms. Molinelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yes.
Mrs. Borghese,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver.
Yes.
Moving on to education, there are 15 consent agenda items on the agenda. May I have a motion?
Second.
Very well. Any comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Dr. Blundy,
Yes.
Mr. Fronte,
Yes.
Ms. Molinelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yes.
Mrs. Borghese,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver.
Yes.
Okay. Human resources, 9 consent agenda items. May I have a motion?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Dr. Blundy,
Yes.
Mr. Fronte,
Yes.
Ms. Molinelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yes.
Mrs. Borghese,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver.
Yes.
Very good. Moving on to finance, we have 15 consent agenda items. May I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
I do have a concern with one of the items on here that I fear could lead to us being in the middle of potential litigation that's been raised previously. And I'm not sure how appropriate it would be to discuss it in open session, but it has been on the agenda previously and been removed.
And how would you like to proceed?
What's your recommendation?
As a board member and having equal ability to be able to make decisions, I would leave that up into your good decision-making ability.
So then I am going to make a motion to go into closed executive session to discuss an issue specific to potential future litigation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very well. I'd like to respectfully ask the audience if you wouldn't mind waiting outside as we enter into executive session. We are back from executive session, and we are under the finance portion of our agenda this evening.
I'd like to make a motion to table item number 11.
Okay. Yas, roll call for that.
Dr. Blundy,
Yes.
Mr. Fronte,
Yes.
Ms. Molinelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yeah.
Mrs. Varghese,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver.
Abstain.
Okay. So under finance, the consent agenda items are now 14. May I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Any comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Blundy,
Yes.
Mr. Fronte,
Yes.
Ms. Molinelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yeah.
Mrs. Varghese,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver.
Yes.
Okay, we are now moving into old business. If everyone wouldn't mind, I would like to just take a moment and thank Dr. Gunderson. I've been on the Board of Education for 8.5 years and seen a lot of things, from transgender policies to mascots to logos to student wellness to COVID. The list is quite lengthy. And the last 2.5 years, I've had the opportunity to serve as the president for the Board of Education. And I just wanted to thank you for kind of a partnership as we've tried to move through some very complicated issues. And just really thank you for being grounded kind of in the middle of some chaotic types of situations, and have always believed that you have an unwavering desire for what's in the best interest of the kids. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all in this for, is for the kids. So I just wanted to provide my gratitude and thank you for all the years of service.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Anything else for old business?
I have two quick items.
Sure.
So the first is, and I don't want to belabor the point, back in the first meeting in May, I had referenced the Trailblazer article that spoke about gender inequalities. I'm a little bit disappointed that we haven't returned to that topic since. I'm not sure, as a new board member, what the focus is for our retreat, which I believe is now scheduled for August 4th. But I imagine we would be doing some goal setting at that time. Mm-hmm. And my hope and expectation is that this will be a part of that conversation and goal setting. The second piece is, following our last meeting, we then saw some information posted on various social media sites that the school manages with regard to items that have been purchased, chairs and change in scoreboard signs and whatnot. So I'm a little disappointed that our schools are off in different directions and they're not working in similar timeframes to get things ordered and replaced. It was acknowledged in the Friday brief. We have the spreadsheet available to us. It looks like Hills has ordered everything on their list, and there are no indications that Pascack Valley has ordered anything. And items at Hills have already started to be replaced, and things were replaced prior to graduation, and a variety of people had opinions on that. But, this is not about changing mascots. This is about how we're rebranding. And my hope is that we're one district with two schools. Let's ensure that we are moving together in similar timeframes. With regard to one of the items on the list, the scoreboard at Pascack Hills was not originally on our list. I went back and I looked at the original document, and it was slated for a sign replacement, home of the Cowboys. But then it was changed to a total scoreboard replacement. The sign replacement was $4,000, if I remember correctly. Now the scoreboard replacement is $28,000. I understand that maybe the scoreboard is at a point where it needs to be replaced. However, it should have been done under a different line or capital improvements or wherever, not under the mascot. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't look transparent. It puts us over budget of what we agreed upon for going all in, going moderate, going conservative. And I wonder did we even leverage any of our corporate relationships in town to seek out donations for that scoreboard? I know we do have some businesses that have been very generous over the last few years with making donations within Montvale and Wycliffe Lake and Rivervale and Hillsdale. $28,000 is a lot of money, and I'm sure we have a lot of needs, and it would have been great if we could have sought that out. If we didn't, I'm not sure if we did. Moving past mascots, because that's what we need to do. We did have conversation with the finance committee when this conversation was taking place about spending on what else does the district need? What are our other needs that we can spend some of this extra money we have on? So my question for administration is, what are those other things that we purchased for classrooms or arts or extracurriculars that the district or students can expect to enjoy next school year.
So can I just read back to you what I heard, the 4 questions that I heard you ask, Mike, so we can address those? The first one was gender equity. You're talking about between the 2 schools or just globally?
Well, if we remember, and it's actually their pinned tweet on their page, the PASCAC Trailblazer has pinned that article that they wrote on, I believe, May 7th with regard to gender inequalities at PASCAC Hills. And it was referenced at the May 7th meeting, I believe, or May 8th, whenever that first meeting in May was. I asked for there to be some follow-up and make sure we had conversation. That has not happened as of yet. I understand it's a busy time, so my hope is that we can devote some time at the retreat to speaking about that, because I know it does align with some of our board goals.
Okay. Equity between both of the schools was the second point that I heard you say about, the rebranding.
Well, I wouldn't use the word equity. I would make sure that, are we following similar timelines?
Okay.
Everything has been ordered at Hills. Has anything been ordered at Valley?
Okay. The third thing that you had mentioned is that it appears as though there's a price differential with the scoreboard based on what the original budget was, and then now.
Correct.
That's the third item. And then the fourth item, which is the retreat, I'm going to just talk about that under new business to be able to identify the priorities for all of you. This is a board's retreat. It's shared conversation. So Dr. Gunderson, do you want to take a stab at these?
I can address a few of those things. You're absolutely right. The scoreboard was not part of our rebranding plan. The scoreboard was replaced because of technical malfunctions that they were having. And so the athletic director worked along with the principal and the business administrator and myself and advocated for the replacement of that. No, we did not seek donations for that scoreboard replacement. In retrospect, is that something that we can do for all sorts of potential purposes? Absolutely. So that may be something that this district wants to do. Move forward and see if we can have some outreach to the community to look for additional donations for equipment. The timing of rebranding, you are correct. As you know, we had an outgoing athletic director at PASCAC Hills who wanted to make sure that the bulk of paperwork, if you will, was completed by the time he finished his time at PASCAC Hills High School. So I give him tremendous credit for moving quickly through some of that to pave the way for the new athletic director to focus on athletics and not rebranding. That being said, this is not a criticism of the PASCAC Valley administration for not moving as fast. It's simply that the athletic director of PASCAC Hills wanted to get some things done to make sure that he was setting up the new athletic director for success. I will follow up with the administration of PASCAC Valley to make sure that they are moving forward with the rebranding at PV. I have no doubt that they are not. So I believe that that's on pace.
May I comment?
What's that?
May I comment about the PASCAC Valley? Because I did speak with the athletic director. They are in the process. He's, as Dr. Gunderson said, the AD in PASCAC Hills was on a short time, as opposed to the Valley AD. So he's been getting all his quotes, doing all his research. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's getting all his ducks in a row. All these purchases have to be submitted prior to July 1st to use this year's dollars. So that's the reason why the AD at Hills acted so quickly, because he's retiring and he's got to get it out. But Valley is moving along.
I'm not criticizing anyone. I just think for our community, it looks best when both schools are kind of moving at a similar pace, especially around graduation when everybody's on campus. So that ship has sailed, and I have no doubt that both athletic directors are doing everything that they need going forward.
Okay, Valley is working on it.
The one concern that I had specific to, and we discussed it last meeting, my understanding of the consultant was to offer recommendations on how to use the logo and the new mascot names. So I will say I was a little bit surprised to see some things ordered, like the chairs, for example, that had Broncos on it, the uniforms. I don't know if they're going to just say PASCAC Hills, PASCAC Valley, or if they're going to have Panthers, if they're going to have Broncos. But since they've been ordered, and we don't have those recommendations. My understanding is we don't from the consultant, and I'm not even sure if that was the role. Maybe I misunderstood, but it seems a little bit like the cart is ahead of the horse.
I do know that that's been discussed with the Director of Communications and the consultant. So that was addressed within those conversations. I don't know the details. I certainly can get that to you if you'd like to reach out to me tomorrow, the next day, or anytime this week. I can get some more information for you.
Are we talking about the consultant for the logos? Is that what you mean? But there's no logo on the chairs, right? It just says Broncos.
Right. So my understanding with the consultant was they were going to offer recommendations on how to use and where to put. So like, for example, when I drove in tonight, I noticed the PV banners, and the PV banners that currently exist don't have Indians on them. The Pascack Hills banners in the front of the school have cowboy references on them. So moving forward, are the Pascack Hills banners going to have Broncos on them? Or are we just going to go with something that is more similar to what Pascack Valley currently has? And that was what I understood the purpose of the consultant to be. So now that we're placing these orders before we have recommendations from the consultant, are we again on the same page? So that's where, you know, we don't have a home of the Indians on the press box here in the stadium. We do have a home of had a home of the Cowboys sign on the press box at Hills. It was $5,000 to replace that sign, and I understand it was a gift from the senior class. However, did we need a sign on the press box if there's also going to be one on the scoreboard? So things like this, you know, are we putting our money in the wisest places? And I think that's what you get that's what you get out of a report when you work with a consultant. This is how you should be using the logo and the name, and this is what you should be using it on, and making sure that you're aligned across both schools. So.
The only question I had is, I remember at the last meeting, and I don't know if this was something that the consultant was doing, was there was an issue with the fonts because they weren't the same, and something about the color code, right? And we're supposed to, is that supposed to come to us? Are we supposed, just if you could update me on that, because I remember that there was something mentioned about that.
Yeah, so the consultant is specifying brown's going to be brown, but for stationery and items that need a specific color pixel number, if you will, I don't know the technical jargon for it, but that's going to be specified for that type of material. For the back of chairs, I know that there was some public criticism using my words at the last board meeting, saying that, you know, that level of specificity hasn't been made yet. The backs of chairs, it's either brown or brown. You know, there isn't that level of specificity. It's really in the stationery and the things that go up on the website where there can be those slight moderations. In reality, that's really been more of a historical issue at Pascack Valley, where the color green has evolved and changed over the years haphazardly, quite honestly. And so that's what we're looking to zero in on a little bit more.
It's not easy being green.
Famous quote.
Oh.
Famous quote. We are in old business. Is there any additional old business?
Just with, I think the question I had the most interest in was, what are some other items that students can look forward to when they come in September in terms of other purchases? Because we do talk an awful lot about the athletic piece of this, but there is another also bigger component that can affect our entire student body.
You're absolutely right. So we focused a lot on the rebranding costs, but back in the spring, Dr. Backenheimer did provide an overview of some of the technology that was being purchased, specifically technology that was being purchased for this year and has been used this year to help promote the hybrid learning model, specifically in the areas of mathematics and world language. I'll make sure that I get a synopsis of those purchases, and I'll make sure that I share that with the board on my my Friday briefing, so you have an accurate reflection of what's been purchased.
So you'll create a list of the things we can expect in the fall that will have the branding and the logo. And I just want to make sure that I'm clear on what we heard you say.
So that's already been created, the branding and the logo plan. Not to say that it might not be modified from time to time. Like, we made an administrative decision to replace a scoreboard that was constantly malfunctioning. But I think Mr. Weaver's question is, what purchases did we use from the savings, if you will, this year that didn't go towards rebranding, but went towards instructional materials? I'll be able to put that into a quick synopsis for the Board of Education in the Friday briefing.
Great.
And those were items that were purchased with this year's funds, and many of those items have already been used in school this current year. Not all, but some.
My understanding is some was technology, some was like the 8th period, some was supplementary instruction for students that needed extra help. Right? That's my understanding of where some of that money.
I think there was a request from stage or portable stage.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
portable stage. And then also I know at Valley, Mr. Pucci's requested a few items, particularly in the courtyard. So to get benches, tables, and then do some landscaping, make it a nice learning area or just an area that kids can go out and eat. So that was something that Mr. Pucci was very interested in. On top of that, I know he wants to get some furniture too, student furniture, and then there's some other furnitures in other rooms. So that's something that we talked about, and I asked him to get me the quotes, and then we would purchase those. So again, those would be purchased with this year's dollars, so it would be in place for the fall.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's my understanding that both of the principals meet with all of their administration and they come up with their own priority lists prior to the budget being developed. They share that information with you based on their institutional knowledge of what's happening in the schools, and that's how they come up with their priority list.
That's correct. They don't always get everything they want, but yes, that is something that they do. I think Mr. Weaver may know that as well in his district, but we try to do as much as we can and we prioritize things, and that's what the principals and their team do, as well as Dr. Backenheimer.
Great, thank you. Anything else under old business? Okay, we will now move on to new business. I would like to mention that we do have a retreat coming up. I would encourage any board member to be able to share with me the things that you'd like to see on this agenda. This is not my agenda, it's our agenda as a team. Traditionally, we have gone over the goals and the vision for our district and for the board. Certainly, we're open to the topics that are important for our business at hand for the next upcoming year. So any other new business? No. I also understand that everyone has a meeting set up with our new interim superintendent. So that's new business. He'll be starting formally on July 1st. And so if for some reason you haven't gotten a time set up with our new interim, I would really encourage everyone to be able to do that so that you can develop a relationship with him. The way as president I like our board to work is that every member of this board has the ability to directly connect with the superintendent and the business administrator. They don't have to come through myself or Mr. Blendo as the president or vice president, but that everyone has an equal opportunity to connect with administration, because I just think that's how it should be. As we all have an equal vote every time we sit around this table, as we all have an opportunity to provide feedback into the agenda, we all should have the opportunity to connect with administration to ask any questions. It's a complicated district, complicated thing running a board. So it's important that if you have questions that you reach out for the administration. Anything else under new business? Okay, we will now move on to comments from the public. This section of the meeting is for comments, not dialogue. We are a business-ran board, and when we do public meetings, we are running public business. So we will now enter into that section of our meeting.
Carol Lee Adams.
Ms. Adams?
Thank you again. I wanted to ask the offsite that you're having. I thought in the past that it was open to the public. So if it is, or where it is, and what time is it, and is it open to the public?
Everything that we do is open to the public, but for executive sessions. So that meeting will be, we just got finalization of the meeting. I'm happy to report that every single one of our Board of Education members, we picked a date in the summer where we can all attend. It will be the morning of August the 4th, and it will be published in the newspaper. It will be, actually, it's going to be at Pascack Hills now, right?
Yes,
Moving our meetings to Pascack Hills now.
yes.
Yeah.
In the cafeteria, but we are not able to come as a public member.
You can come, absolutely, you can come as the public, sure.
So you will I would like to know when that occurs. I don't know where you will post that, but I think it's important for us to know that. And I enjoyed the last time I went, and I don't remember when that was. The other question I have is there are 2 New Jersey School Boards Association meetings. One is on June 30, and it's a review of New Jersey's tenure and related statutes, regulations, case law, including acquisition, seniority rights, and dismissal. And then on July 22nd, it's a school law forum. Practicing school board attorneys will share research regarding court decisions, administrative rulings, statutes, and code that affect public education and school district governments, including topics such as ethics, case law update, diversity and inclusion, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just curious if you, and this is a cost factor, I wish it is an exorbitant cost for any member of the public, but I'm just curious if you are sending school board members to attend both, either one, and could you let me know that now?
So I know that Ms. Stebbins has reached out and tried to get on some trainings. I have myself. There's been some last minute cancellations with those trainings. However, we are all doing our best to be able to attend those sessions. I can't tell you at this exact moment who will be attending both of those sessions, but if it's important to you, I'm happy to share with you which board members will be attending. And our retreat will be posted on the school website, which you can refer to.
No, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt somebody? I'm sorry.
I just had a quick question. When was the first meeting you said?
The first meeting is July 22nd. Excuse me, I'll go back, June 30.
June 30th. Okay.
And July 22nd is the second one. And I always thought there was one member, at least one member of a school board that was the liaison to the New Jersey School Boards Association. They also used to be a Bergen County one as well, and they would attend all of the meetings. So once again, I don't know if that is the case these days, but I would encourage members to attend both of them, if not at least one of them, and then to report back to the public what they have learned. It would be good to do
Hi,
that.
Clara Lee. It's Deborah Steffens.
I thought I'd hear from you.
Yeah, I did sign up to attend 2 legal school board forums, one of them of which you're speaking about. I think it's actually both of them. They were postponed. I'm going to try and attend them. So because I'm very interested in the law. So
I thought that would be great for you. And I thank you very much for that. And please report back to us what you learned. And it would be nice to share because I cannot afford the costs. I almost wish they had Zoom where we could attend, but it doesn't appear that they do at this point in time. They're a little bit behind the times. The other thing is I comment about this, that there's so much in the news right now, and particularly just today. And I hope that during your offsite, you do discuss this, where there are particularly biological females who feel that they have been, they've lost their opportunities to win certain championships when biological males who now are transgender win. And recently was a weightlifting contest and another one about, I'm not sure about track. So I hope you address this. I don't like to see all that we worked for with Title IX to allow females to achieve a notoriety in sport seems to be diluted in some way by allowing males, biological males, to participate as transgenders. So I hope you do discuss that. Since we do have an LGBTQ policy, which is quite extensive, to say the least. So I hope you discuss that. I don't like to see our females not being able to win championships because they're not as strong as a biological male. The last thing is this, and I was concerned, this was something I just wrote down. As you stated, Mrs. Molinelli, you know, you've been through so many varied things, and I just quickly jotted down what you said, through COVID, transgender, through mascots and logos, et cetera. You didn't mention academics. And I just hope that in the years ahead, we don't have these extraordinary things that we spend so much time on unnecessarily, that we focus purely on academics as being the utmost of our highest as we address the students in the Pascack Valley Regional High School District. And there have been some concerns that some of our scores have not been as good as they can be. And I'm not going to go into detail because I haven't followed it that closely. But let us just say that what we've been through over the decades is academics. And
Very good. I'm sorry, Ms. Adams, we are at the 5-minute mark, and I do believe that academics are the #1 priority. I was just speaking off the top of my head. So thank you, because you are correct. Academics is the priority. So thank you for your call.
Cheryl Gross.
Cheryl Gross, please state your town of residence.
My name is Cheryl Gross. I live in Riverville, New Jersey. I just want to state for everyone, thank you for your service. I know that this is, for most of you, a volunteer gig, not you, Gunderson, but for everyone else. And I thank you guys. I know that this is a lot of work and a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. Particularly like to thank you, Ms. Malinelli, for being the president. And I know, being a leader myself, that this has been extraordinary times, but you have, risen to the occasion, and your poise and your grace, is greatly appreciated. There are many parents who support the work of the school district and of the school. And while everyone may not call in, never feel that you're alone. Dr. Gunderson, I wish you the best in your new venture. I know that you will do great there. Although we have had many conversations and many disagreements, although I have called in mostly in agreement with some of your issues, but we have had many disagreements over the years. But you have always treated me with professional grace and patience, and I appreciate that. And as a parent, and who is graduating soon, my second child out of this high school, I would highly encourage this board to perhaps engage in a closed door session with some of our children who have graduated or who are currently in the school, who are not going to feel comfortable with an open session to talk about their experiences as children of color. Because while we do focus on academics, and I do believe that is the case, I think it's important, as I leave the school district, that if there's anything I can do is to support these kids, but also support gaining better knowledge. Because when you hear from children who have been through some extraordinary circumstances, I hope that that provides a little bit more awareness and a greater lens to many of you who are making decisions on behalf of all of our children. And then lastly, I just hope that you guys find some time to rest over the summer and get ready for what will be a very, very busy school year. And if there's anything I can do as a leader in this community, as well as a leader in corporate, I would be very happy to do that.
Thank you for your call.
Jan Eggers.
Ms. Higgins,
Hi.
please state your town of residence, please.
Good evening. My name is Jan Eggers, Montvale, New Jersey. I would just like to thank Dr. Gunderson for his years of service to the Pascack Valley Regional High School District. The first time I met you was when my eldest daughter, Etty, attended pre-K at Pascack Hills, those many years ago. I can't do the math right now, sorry. Thank you so much for always being so accessible to nervous preschool parents, along with nervous parents of all ages, and leading our combined school district through some very trying times. And Mrs. Malinelli, I'm deeply troubled by this attempt at usurping the voice of the electorate. I would like you to know that you have our full support here at the Eggers household. We believe that under your leadership this past year, the Pascack Valley Regional High School District has performed extraordinarily well through this pandemic. Thank you so much for your service. And on as a final note, I would also like to address a statement said previously. Please don't forget that transgender females are females first and transgender second. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your call.
Eli?
Eli?
Yes.
Eli, you have the floor.
Thank you. Eli Moallen, Rivervale. In case anybody from the outside is looking in, I feel like our community is being painted in a very, very ugly light, and it's not the experience I had. So I just want to start by saying, I think we're blessed to live in such a beautiful community with some of the nicest families on earth. And as an immigrant, I consider all of it and all of you my American dream. So I want to make sure everybody understands how great the people of our community are, all of them. Our community is colorblind, actually. That's what I see. That doesn't mean there aren't bad people in this world, but the moment we teach our kids that self-worth depends on others, we've failed. We failed them big time. To my RV neighbor, I'm truly sorry for any pain your child has felt, but color is not the only thing that gets attacked. I can tell you my Jewish kids have experienced hate. Their Asian friends have experienced hate. Kids with special needs experience hate. Now, maybe we all address it differently in our households, but I know how we addressed it in mine. And I don't know if I could share it in this forum, but needless to say, I told my kids to stand up and fight. But at the end of the day, my kids are not to blame for any of it. And their education shouldn't be suffering because of a few bad apples. And that's literally what we're doing. We are addressing a few bad apples and throwing the whole bunch with them. In fact, if I see now that my Rivervale neighbor's kid is graduating, but if her kid or any other kid experienced anything so significant as what she described, I wish she said something to one of my kids or any one of the kids I've coached throughout my years in town, and she would have had an army surrounding, protecting, standing by her kid. That I'm sure of. She wouldn't need this Board of Ed, believe me. No equity initiatives in the world are going to cure an evil heart. So you might as well stop wasting your time. We've spent decades dealing with the ugliest parts of our country's history. And now, after decades of meaningful progress and unity, which is, I think, how most of us grew up, we're injecting race and color into every aspect of our lives. And in this case, it's affecting our kids' education. We're destroying Martin Luther King's dream. And really, it is heartbreaking. We have a lot of problems in this world, but diversity, inclusion, decency, and kindness are an abundant supply in our community. And nobody's stating that. It's time to put an end to this nonsense. It's time to get back to teaching our kids, preparing them for the future, and leave the parenting to us. It's our job, we like it, and we're pretty good at it. I guess this is as good a time as any to let you know that I'll be running for Rivervale Board of Ed at PV. My platform will be simple: focus on excellence in education. I want to transform PV into a career superhighway. We've had some things that my older kids have experienced that I think were phenomenal. And I want to focus on more of that and much, much less of this. It's time to respect the taxpayer. And what you guys have done with some of your initiatives have been extremely disrespectful to the taxpayer. I hope some of the current board members, and it sounds like some of them are, get on board with the direction that the school used to be in. And I hope anybody that's out there that has an open seat in their town, this is not political. If you want to get the school back to normal, because that's where we need to get, I hope and pray that you run for that open seat, because I think you'll get a lot of support. I hear a lot of people speaking as if they know what's in my heart or know what's in my head, and I find that to be the height of arrogance. Gentleman from Montvale, we'll just call him SF, thinks that he is above us and that our petitions or our comments on Facebook need to be shut down. That's not how it works. Miss Molinelli got elected to a job, and she can take the heat that job brings along with it. She seems like a tough enough lady. I don't think you all need to run cover for her. She's handling herself pretty well. But I think it's time for the voices of all these people to be heard. And so I hope and pray that a lot of people come out, run for office for Pascack Valley, for our lower boards, because our kids' futures depend on it. And right now we're failing them. Thank you.
Thank you for your call.
I have Caroline Adams again, but I have another person. Carrie Solomon.
Hi, it's Aaron Solomon from Montville. I'm a student at Pascack Hills. Well, first I would like to congratulate Dr. Gunderson on his movement away from our district, but thank him for his extensive service. I've thoroughly enjoyed your presence at the school and thought we are better off because of it. Second of all, I'd like to shift away a little bit from the conversation been having. Earlier you mentioned like kind of equity between the two schools, what needed to be done, and I'm in the theater program at Hills. I'm the stage manager. So I'd like to say that I know quite a bit about the program. I do know, I'm pretty sure this is a fact that while the last time that Pascack Hills got an auditorium renovation, Pascack Valley has gotten 2 since then. And I know it's been talked about quite a bit, or at least it used to be. I haven't heard of it in a while, but our dimmer set that runs our lights is literally a fire hazard. Our stage is quite a bit worse for wear and could use a redo. And although I know it won't happen while I'm still here because I'm a rising senior, I'd like the people that follow me to have a good enough space to perform what's now an award-winning theater program. So I think we're doing pretty dang good. And I'd like to see maybe that get a move on again. And I hope that you look into that again. And lastly, with the equity, I don't think it's disrupting our education at all. I'd like to say I got a pretty damn good education this past year, even throughout the pandemic, and I think you're doing a pretty good job. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Aaron. I would like to share with you that the auditorium is in the 5-year plan. So we're in the 5-year plan.
Do we know where in the 5 years?
Somebody was going to ask that question.
Is it about 3 hours?
I don't want to speculate. Yes, you don't happen to remember off the top of your head, right?
No, I don't. It's well, we have to prioritize each year, so that's
I think it's
in
about
that
3,
process.
I'm on finance and buildings and grounds. And as I recall, plus or minus, it's about 3, would you say?
Yeah, I think so. Well, we did a walkthrough with the principals, and actually both auditoriums were on the list.
Right.
We discussed that.
What's a ballpark figure?
Gee, if I say, I'm going to guess it's probably about $1 million because it's doing everything. It's not, we talked about stage, we talked about lighting, we talked about sound. I think as far as the seats and the carpet, that's fine, but it's more of this area, stage, lights, sound. And they want to do everything all at once instead of piecemeal. I think we were all in agreement when we did the walkthrough at both schools that it's best to do it all at once, get everything all done, integrate everything. So then you don't run into problems when you start piecemealing things year after year.
Can someone check into whether it really is a fire hazard? I'm going to assume it's not, but I think that's a really good point that he brought up. So I think that should be looked into because obviously it would be nice to do it all at one time, but something like that perhaps needs to be looked into earlier.
Yeah, we have that down. We'll double check. We don't allow anything that's knowingly a fire hazard to continue in operation. So I just want to put that out there. But yes, thank you.
Who's next? Yeah.
David Steinberg.
Mr. Steinberg, please state your town of residence.
David Steinberg, Woodcliff Lake. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. First, I just want to thank Dr. Gunderson for his service to our community. Your professionalism, enthusiasm, and concern for our students and the outcomes has been amazing and on display every single day you're in office. Also, want to let you know that you and your staff create an environment where students can be challenged, pushed to think out of the box, and be encouraged to take chances. You'll definitely be missed, and I know your new school, you'll do great things there, and wish you the best. Ms. Malinelli, disappointing to hear members of the public asking, or I'm just hearing about this the first time today, seeking to make changes or so, especially some the folks from Rivervale, get the small group of them that are questioning grades and academics, things of that nature. Not too long ago, I was on the school board, and many of the concerns I had, especially this past year during COVID, was were about sports. When is sports starting? Not so much about academics. And I can tell you that our kids are doing very, very, very well, and they have bright futures. And the same people who are asking about the high school scores, I hope that they would go ahead and look at their middle school scores as well, because at the end of the day, we get what you send to us, and the high school makes them better. But I again encourage you to ask the same questions to your middle school. That's all I have to say. But again, just thank you, and Ms. Maloney, thank you for your, you've been very upfront, transparent with people, enthusiastic, always asking board members for what their opinions are, treating everybody equally. And I think that's something that's very encouraging. Everyone on the board has the same exact vote as each other, and just want to remind you of that. And thank you for your support. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more comments from the public. Oh, I apologize. I'm so sorry. In person, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Anthony DeRosa, Councilman Borough Hillsdale liaison to the board. I was wondering if there is any further discussion on maintaining the hybrid format for the board meetings for next school year. And if not, could you possibly consider putting that on your retreat agenda?
It is on the retreat agenda. I have it on my draft agenda, and I think it's absolutely something we need to have a conversation about moving
Great.
forward.
Good.
Thank you.
At the end of this school year, I just wanted to thank administrators, guidance counselors, nurses, class 3 officers, anyone involved in doing the best they could with a really difficult situation this year. Dr. Gunnison, I addressed your leaving last meeting. We'll miss you. To the board members, on behalf of the board, we appreciate what you've done. I know it's a difficult position. You're not compensated for it, but I would venture to say that you gain compensation in the little things, the little triumphs, and also the big things like being able to fist bump 290 some odd students at graduation. It was great to have a normal graduation ceremony. So we appreciate what you do for the community, and hope you have a good summer. See you next year.
Thanks. One thing I would like to recognize is 3 of our board members have graduates from our high school. So Mr. Blundow had his daughter graduate. Mr. Stankus also had his daughter graduate. And Kristen Martin's son graduated from our high school. So I would like to recognize their outstanding performance and congratulate them and their families. It's a wonderful thing. Both my kids graduated from Hills. And so, yeah, great parenting, great work, great high school. So
That's a good feeling.
It's a great feeling, right? So on that note, what I would like to do is to ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Very good. By acclamation, we are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, members of the audience. Thank you, community.